You know, most people are writing marketing copy, not story copy. And there's a difference. There's a big difference. Marketing copy tells people what you do, but story copy makes them feel why it matters to them. One of them is going to get scrolled past, and the other isn't. It's going to stop the scroll. Today, you're going to learn the difference. And once you do, you will never think of copy the same way again. It's going to make your life so much easier. So let's look into how being your own copywriter, because really, if you think about it, any marketing campaign that's going to succeed, the foundation, the first thing people do is look at the message, the tagline, right? And unless your message is clear, any marketing material you create will likely just be a waste of time and money, honestly. Becoming proficient, though, at story copywriting is worth every ounce of effort you can apply, and it's not that hard, I promise you. And now that you've done the clarify step and your brand story synthesis and your root soundbite, the marketing material that you create with that, with your AI partner, is going to get results because your roots, your brand story, roots is a part of your brand story, is you. It's who you are, what you stand for, and why anybody would care. Okay. And the anybody happens to be your ideal client. So let's dive in. I'm going to share screen and go through some slides. Okay. Story copywriting, capturing their attention in 6 seconds. Yep. So let's just have a little reminder. Um, when we're in here, we're going to talk about the brand strategy tree. Just as a reminder, we've got the 3 steps: clarify, captivate, communicate. The roots is where we start. Build a strong foundation. This holds your power positioning, your distinction. We defined your client. We did market research and we looked at your offers and your revenue channels to see if it could really work, if it makes sense, and then developed a simplified marketing plan from there, looking at the customer journey and making it simple. Okay. So that is where you've been. And now we're moving into the trunk. Captivate. This is where your design, your logos, colors, fonts, your graphics, how you're going to design and lay out your marketing machine website, not just a pretty website. This is the difference. We're talking strategy, marketing machine. There's a reason we take people where we take them. We're going to guide them. We're not going to bose them and flood them with all this website copy. So that's where story copywriting and laying out the page itself in story formula is going to attract and captivate because we love stories. We'll get into that in a minute. And then you've got your branches where all your tactics and your strategies you're going to do. You're not going to do all of them, but this is where you're going to consistently build trust from your roots work. Okay. So getting authentic results from AI, because that's why we do this. We go through a brand story pretty much by hand and let AI pull it all together. But we're still mining our heart, our authentic, true soul story and business, how we're going to make money, who we're going to serve, the impact. So we need to have a clear, consistent message. We've already talked about that. And then with that message, we're able to show up aligned. We're proud of it now because it represents us. It's authentic. We are represented authentically and proud of it. And when we use story copywriting, that is what pulls it all together because we are hardwired for story. Why story copywriting? Well, you're going to save time creating marketing material because you're going to have your core roots, that's you, that your AI partner then creates marketing material. I have people tell me all the time they love my emails. I hadn't written an email in quite a while. Create marketing that actually works. You know, there's nothing like getting all excited for a launch or something project you've been working on and the marketing just falls flat and nobody is interested. And story copywriting organizes your thinking. It really helps you stay in the perspective of your person. And we'll talk about that a little deeper in a minute. I'm telling you, hassle-free marketing content creation. The sky's the limit. You can be creative. You don't have to think about how you're going to get something done once you master the tools. And you don't need a lot of tools. Building trust in a digital world. The world's full of AI slopaganda. That's not building trust. It's meaningless, it's disjointed, it's diluted. It just doesn't make sense. It's confusing. We can't do that and think we're going to be successful. That's why we start with the roots and the roots sound bites. So we want quality over quantity. And that's what story copywriting will do because people don't buy the best. They buy the easiest to understand. So don't get kitschy. Don't get all kitschy and smart. People don't make the connections that you make. You're close to your business. You make those connections, but most people don't. We've got to keep it way below nursery school level. Because think about it. A confused person never buys. Nope. Now, the other confusion makers, or we try to say everything and we say nothing, we're too vague and we get all poetic and kitschy, try to be smart. We lead with credentials. Nobody cares yet. They want the outcomes. How are you going to make my life better? We tend to use jargon that only your team understands. It's industry jargon, like a brand promise or a KPI, key performance indicators. That's a marketing thing. I never use that. I don't even like the way it sounds. And then the fifth one, sound like a resume instead of a real human. Okay. Now, how are we going to gain trust? What is going on out there? Well, the recent studies show that 74% of people trust a brand more when the message is clear. That's why I'm harping on it. But only 41% of consumers trust what they read online. That's what I've been talking about, being authentic. anchoring in, getting aligned with the truth of who you are and what you stand for and put that out there. And then 92% want their marketing to what? Feel like a story. It all works. You see? So the true benefit of an intentional brand build by this time you probably have your brand story and you're ready to build your website copy. But this is what has happened. The true benefit is you are going to build your reputation because you're satisfied with your brand story messaging and you're going to use it consistently. And you will become known. Your message clarifies how you are going to help them. Because the only question is, what's in it for me? And it's also going to tell them how you can help them within 6 seconds. Because that's all we have. We have very little attention span when it comes to devices anymore. It's going to make you stand out in a sea of sameness. So just that alone is a monumental. That's what the task is at hand here, making you stand out and getting you out there. This is the consistency. Look, brands who are consistent across all platforms can increase their revenue up to 23% annually, year over year. 20% of $50,000 revenue is another $10,000. So now you're at 60, and it's year over year. Be consistent. Your brand story is your building block for all your copy. And when you're consistent across all platforms, what platforms? These platforms, your website, email, social media, your business book, video, podcasting. You can add speaking on here. I'll go back and add that. Speaking is huge. Podcast guesting, getting on stages locally, do a lunch and learn. One clear message, consistency. So this is what we're moving into at this point. And when you start talking about a website copy, we cannot forget the design piece. It's not just about picking the colors that your ideal client loves or checking out the psychology or redoing your logo. Not by a long shot. The real keys to the kingdom and when you're going to really convert on your website is with the design and the layout, how you put the content down the page. And I bet you can guess how I put the content down the page is with the story formula. Because we love stories. We all love stories. So the truth is people do not want a fancy website with a bunch of whiz bang on it. All this interactive and no. They want to find what they want when they want it. They don't want to spend a lot of time. So this is why with website copy, we're going to follow best practices of how many words are going to go on that page. And it's different for a home page than for a service page. Service page is going to be a little longer. The home page is going to be more home base where you figure out where you're going. Now, we're going to get into story copywriting formula, and right out of the gate, I want to thank Don Miller, my mentor of Story Brand, who brings the screenwriting formula to marketing. He's a screenwriter, Hollywood screenwriter. So in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to break it down. And then after this webinar, begin honing your skill. It's going to click. By the end, you'll see it's just going to click. And I've got a workbook. So using your root sound bites, okay? We're going to use the root sound bites. This is your encapsulated message. There are 5 sound bites here. And when you put them together, it is your marketing message, your pitch, your clarifying who you are. You know, when you get up, your introduction, it's your introduction at any meeting. So let's look at mine for now. Roots, ROOTS. So the R, root cause, the one problem. I know you solve a ton of problems, but what is the one? We have to know the one that will cover everybody that you want to work with. You're doing all the right things online, but your calendar is still empty. That's the number one problem my people have. And then the first O is outreach. Outreach. We're of service. We're we're not in this. Of course we're in this to make money. But we're here to make an impact. We're here on purpose. We have something in us that wants us to be here. This is not a job. This is something much different. So outreach with empathy, like this is truly how you feel. This isn't unnatural. It shouldn't be unnatural. If it is, you may want to, take a look at being a plumber or something. I don't know. But this is my outreach statement. I know it is frustrating. It just feels awful to work so hard and stay invisible. I get it, but not to worry. Not to worry. And now comes the second O, the offer, what they actually want. Not what you're giving them and twisting into a pretzel to convince them or persuade them that this is what they need. No, what do they want? We design offers that make sense to them. We will clarify your message, design offers that people want to buy, and build a simple market plan rooted in your truth. That's it. And then the transformation. How are you going to make my life better? This answers that question. What's in it for me? Articulate your value and get paid what you're worth. And then what is this S, the simplified plan? Well, how does it work? Listen, we are bombarded. It is infobesity out there. It is so much information. When somebody comes to your house and knocks on the door, you don't just open it and walk away. No, you stand there and you greet them. And you're like, hey, come on in. You tell them what to do. Have a seat. Well, this is what we're doing. Enroll. These are very short. Enroll, show up, get traction. It could be that simple. But we'll look at some examples. But let's get into story. Like story conjures the senses. It is the most powerful tool to captivate an audience and create resonance. It's an age-old practice, over 10,000 years old. It's how the cavemen, we go back then. So use the power of story to filter your message so that it resonates and captivates. There's not a lot of extra. We can follow it. Good stories aren't just heard, they're told. Would you agree? They're felt. They aren't just heard, they are felt, right? No, you don't agree to the told. They have to be felt. Essentially, a story is about a character. I mean, let's just think about it for a minute. It's about a character who wants something, but they're faced with a challenge or problem. Just think of your favorite movie or your favorite book. It doesn't matter. It's a story. But every story has a character who wants something. But they're faced with challenges. There's an obstacle in their way. And then, in the midst of this challenge, they meet a guide. The guide gives them a plan and calls them to action. Here's a plan. Take action. Do the first thing. And that action helps the character do two things. It's twofold. Avoid failure. We know what that looks like with the character, and we write it into the screenplay or the book. Like, if you can't do this, then this is what you're facing. Like, what's at stake? And the second thing is the action you prescribe in the plan helps them end in success, whatever that is. Whatever that transformation is the success. So once you learn this formula for story copywriting, writing's going to become easier and your work is going to be more effective. It really, really will. Writing copy is an art form, and you learn the formula and marketing becomes easy. Why should you care? I mean, you're going to save time, the quality of your work and content gets better, and you get more and more confidence. When you continue with this formula, and I'm going to give it exactly to you, it's going to feel natural because we're hardwired for story. It's that simple. Why does the brain love story? Well, yeah, we're hardwired for it. Stories are memorable. We remember them. And when somebody says, once upon a time, we're like, what? We kind of know that, uh-oh, something's going to happen. So the memorable, we remember when the facts, if somebody tells us facts, we don't really remember it. How many how many lessons do they have in that course? I don't know. But the story could be that by the end of this course, and then you don't care how many. So the other thing about story is it really truly inspires action, and it activates the brain in a way that is like nothing else. So it moves people truly from curious to committed. So let's get into the 7 steps, the 7 elements to a story that moves your audience to action. How do we tell a story? How do we tell a story? Well, look how engaged these kids are. That's how we're going to make your audience, right? Well, number one is your avatar, the first element, the hero. That's the hero of your story. Always think from your ideal client's point of view. They are the hero. And you think of their point of view as if you are them. This is where your natural, intuitive, empathic abilities can be so helpful. And you are not the hero of the story. You want to think, what do they want? What are their challenges? How can you position yourself as their guide at their service? Now, I want you to hear this. The main character in a story is called the hero. Yes. And to really compel an audience, the hero is called to a task that's outside their comfort zone. They have to stretch. And if they don't, they're not going to get what they want. They will not do what is necessary for their transformation. They won't follow your instructions, for example. The hero is not the strongest character in the story, though. The hero is not the strongest. But the hero is the center of the story because they're the ones who have to take action, the one who must experience a transformation brought on by an adventure. Think of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, the story arc. There's an adventure involved. So when you're talking about this, when you're approaching story copywriting, you must remember that you are not the hero. You do not want to compete with them. Then you become their friend, a colleague. They want somebody who specializes in solving that problem that is preventing them from getting to their mountaintop. They're the hero. They're going to the mountaintop. You are the guide. You specialize in this particular problem. Okay? So that's how all that. And if you think of examples, I mean, you can think of Luke Skywalker in Star Wars or Bridget Jones, you know, um, Bridget Jones' Diary. So I probably ruin watching movies anymore when we get by the end of this. Now, the second element is who has struggles. So it's somebody, that is, I'm going back just a second. The hero of the story, your avatar, the hero of the story who is struggling. And they have external struggles, the obvious ones, and then the soulful struggles, the ones maybe they don't speak about out loud. So no story works unless there is tension. It's boring. So when we talk about problems or struggling or challenges, don't let, semantics get in the way. We need to identify the pain that they are experiencing in order to present the solution. So no story works unless the hero encounters a problem and the problem opens a story question that the audience must stay to answer. Will they get out of this? Are they going to get their happy ending? It's how we get hooked. This is why stories are so compelling. They prompt us to ask questions like, well, I wonder what's going to happen. In a good story, there's the two levels, the external and the soulful. So the external is the visible problem, like I can't explain what I do or why it works. That's the example of my client, of their visible, tangible problem. This is their struggle. I can't explain what I do or why it works, what I do. Now, the soulful problem, how does it make them feel? Well, my people generally feel like I feel like the only one who can't get it clear because we're out there comparing ourselves, which is a big problem right there. So without that soulful layer, you're going to lose your audience. We want to really understand our people because people buy solutions to soulful problems. Okay, so we've got this hero of the avatar who is struggling, who meets a guide. That would be you. I've got all these horsey pictures in here because I did it for my client in the equine assisted space. So it's fun. I love horses. So who meets a guide? They're going to solve their problem. They have shared values It's why I spend a lot of time with my clients developing their thought leadership. It creates resonance, or it doesn't. And then they're gone and they're not bugging you because you don't even like them anyway. And we will win their heart. Now, the next thing, number 4, wait, uh-oh. Number 4 is gives them a plan. This is what we were talking about back in the roots. Because people trust a guide who has a plan. Yeah, sure, we'll get together. We'll have a session. We'll see what happens next. No, that's not going to cut it. People want to know about a plan, a program, an end result. What are we doing? Is it a one session journey, or is it a 4-week, 3-month, a year? What is it? And what am I going to get at the milestone? So when the hero meets the guide, they are confused. They're coming in with their problem, looking for help. They don't have time nor the cognitive bandwidth to unpack how they're going to work with you. We got to spell it out. We got to break it down and break through their confusion. That's what this is for, is to snap them out of it. They've been through all the pain and all that in the transformation, but now they've got to have a plan. So in this plan, this is going to give them the confidence that this could really work. Number 1, book a discovery call. Number 2, we clarify your story. Number 3, you show up with confidence. Super simple. Never more than 3 steps, because simplicity removes fear and confusion. It calms the nervous system. We are in the business, truly, that your nervous system is your marketing department. And story copywriting is going to help us ourselves stay calm in our business, but it's going to present a beautifully calm, clear offer and engage people and captivate them and bring them in to your hammock, and how you're going to clear away this fear and confusion. So the next element, number 5, calls them to action. Call to action, CTA button, right? Well, people will not take action unless they're invited. They're not going to take action unless they're invited. And this is where we get into the sales conversation, and we don't want to be salesy. And I don't want to, maybe they don't like, stop it. Stop it. That's just a diversion. I mean, I suffer with the same thing. I'm very light touch, but I do invite. I do present. So heroes must be challenged to take action. And especially as coaches and consultants, that's where this becomes really critical. Because in life, clients need the same level of encouragement that the movie industry and story industry books present in every one of the successful ones that we love. Okay, so we've got to remember that. Now, number 6, it leads them to their desire, what they want. So we've gone through this whole layout that follows the roots. I'll show you how it all pulls together. But show people how your work changes their lives. Paint the after picture, the happy ending. A sad ending, that's the Shakespeare's tragedy. An audience has to know what might happen if they're going to remain interested. Paint the picture clearly. Always be asking in your copy, how am I going to make their life better? Show them through imagery also what their life looks like after they work with you. Use the richness of their language that we pulled from the testimonials when we built your brand story and your roots. Those are rich client language sound bites. So that's not the last one. That's only number 6. Well, I thought we were at the end of the story. No. Remember, there were 2 things. This is twofold. Because now we've brought them down the page, we brought them through, but they still might be hesitant. So, this is the time and story that we remind them, what is every human being trying to avoid? That tragic ending. So, we want to help them understand where they are and to give them our strength, their strength to step up and do what we know they need to do. So, a big part of this is stepping into your power, claiming your expertise. So, without stakes, the story simply has no power and your prospects will lose interest. Clients need to know what the consequences are if they don't take action. So it ain't no big thing. We just simply state the facts of the problem that they're already experiencing. What's the cost? What's the cost of not solving this? And it doesn't have to be heavy or dramatic. Just keep it simple, brief, true, true. Spell out what it will cost them if they don't take the next step. So for me, it may sound something like this. When you can't explain what you do, the people who need you most scroll right past. Another year passes, the business that was supposed to be yours stays just out of reach. Not because you're not good enough, but because your message didn't reach them. So that one's pretty a good zinger one. I would call that on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being a gut punch. That this is right up there with 4, number 4. You can make it harsher, but you can be as easy about it as you want to. So those are the 7. Now here's some copywriting rules that are general. I mean, this is really great rules. Short sentences under 12 words. If you can get it under 8, that's better. And the test is read it out loud. And if you can't do it in one breath, then break it up. Have y'all seen those run-on sentences, right? Number 2, active voice. Use verbs, not just descriptive nouns, like not transformation is experienced by clients. Say clients transform. The subject itself is doing the action in that. Clients. Contractions. AI is going to use contractions. So you have to go through your copy and get rid of those because it's not you're not, you are. It's not, it is. Real people speak in contractions. Your house is on that street, not, well, you are coming to the show. You're coming to the show. We don't say you are coming to the show. So we've got to make it natural. Number 4, no jargon. If your ideal client wouldn't say it, cut it. This term somatic integration, that's jargon. It doesn't mean anything. What does mean something is your body holds the memory of what happened. One call to action per section. We will not click. Studies show this time and time again. We will not click. Either one. Pick one. Book a call. Every other option dilutes the one that you actually want them to take. That's called conversion. You're cannibalizing your conversions by all these different things, especially in one section with two. Then the last one I have here, client first. If I appears more than you in your copy, rewrite it. Now there's some exceptions. You want to use first person and sometimes in your bio or your story, but count the words. Read the copy out loud, especially with AI. If it sounds like a website, it isn't done yet. If it sounds like a person, it's ready. That's your bottom line. Yes or no? Now, these are the 8 story copywriting bridge questions. You use your roots to answer these questions. These answers down here, look, these answers don't change very often. The format changes, but the core stays the same. When you use these questions, and I've got the handout, as your master copy template, every time you need to write a new piece of marketing, I mean, it could be a LinkedIn post, it could be your bio for your speaking or your anything. This is where you start. The answers don't change that much because you have your roots. You did your roots work. Now, you may have a campaign that's targeting burned out caregiver professionals, like nurses, for example. And that's going to be you could tweak it. You could tweak the roots, do a roots for nurses, and then fill it in. So most coaches try to write their homepage first and they pick a template. And they just fill in the blanks. Maybe it's a Squarespace template, but then they look like every other consultant online. And it's not saying anything, it's saying nothing. So let's look at this. That your homepage needs to be designed and laid out in story format. So your roots paragraph, like when you put all of the roots together, it's your pitch. It's the seed of your entire homepage website, homepage copy. Every section is already in those 4 to 6 sentences. So now I'm going to show you how these fit because this is the instruction we give Claude. Story brand layout with these 10 sections using the brand story and the roots to get the homepage copy. Okay. From your brand story, we did the roots. And now we're going to submit both of these documents into Claude and give it specific instructions to use story brand, conversion, focus, website, copy, structure. If we go, and this is just demystifying the whole brand story. Why'd you have me write this brand story, Lee? Like, what the heck? Well, this is how we get it into the website because you can't put everything in your brand story onto the website. That's not the point. That's why we distilled it to the roots, but we couldn't get to the roots, those 5 sound bites here, until we did the brand story and did that research and got the testimonials and really had you look at what you stand for. We couldn't have gotten to the roots in your clarity for you to step out with a viable business plan. So here's the correlation. The root cause, that's the pain. That's the problem. This is gonna name, that's gonna be in section 3 of the website. The problem, external and internal, make them feel seen. And you can go back by each one of these. Outreach, that one statement, I get it. There's nothing worse than your marketing falling flat after all that. So this is section 4, the guide. Empathy before authority. Because then you come off as sounding, egotistical. You feel it with them before you tell them what you know. And remember, the reason we're having to do this is because we're talking website. It's 2D. It's a language we've got to be very deliberate about and guide them where we want them to go. Then section 1, the offer is your hero banner. It's what they want in their language. And then the transformation is the before and after. And then the plan. So this is how it correlates from your brand story to your roots to your homepage copy. But if you do your Claude instruction correctly, then you can use that same instruction for all your pages and it will do it correctly. So to end this, sometimes reality is too complex. Stories give it form. What a beautiful quote to kind of sum it up. Jean-Luc Godard. So thank you for listening. I hope that was helpful and you are really inspired to do this. So just comment below and I'll send you the link to the workbook, Story Copywriting. Thank you for being here. Good luck.